So I've made some videos about emotional incest, but I have not yet covered why the parents do what they do, why they're the perpetrators, why they commit emotional incest and possibly destroy their own children's lives. Let's explore that today. So yes, covered emotional incest in various ways. In fact, you can click up right now for a link about what is emotional incest in terms of a broader view of it, and I've done several other ones as well. Today I want to talk about the why. Why do parents do it? Why would they purposely, either consciously or unconsciously, potentially destroy one of their own child's lives? Because that can happen. That does wreck a child's life when their identity is stripped from them, when they are smothered emotionally, when they have to mirror back to the parent what the parent wants to see, and therefore the child doesn't have proper identity development stages. And I can go on and on and on, and how that affects their life and relationships and trusting and vulnerabilities and self-esteem and so on. But today I just really want to focus on why the parents do it. Well, there's various reasons, whether it's the mother committing it to either their son or daughter, or a father committing it to either their son or daughter. It is committed, it is perpetrated, it is done by the parent. That's where it starts. So in looking at the reasons, we'll start with a bad marriage. That is probably one of the top reasons. So they're not happy in their marriage. It's not working out the way they thought. They had a fantasy about what their life was going to be like with their significant other, with their spouse, and in raising their children, and it is kaput. The marriage sucks. Everything is bad. They're not happy. Well, rather than deal with that and get the adult help that they need to work on the relationship, work with their spouse on whatever the issues are that are causing trouble between the two of them, and then growing from that, right? And then having a flourishing relationship and marriage, rather than going that route, which can help them in the long run, they're sort of not going there at all, and they're saying, I'm not going to deal with this. But what they do say is, I have that little girl, or I have that little boy now. And they can sort of step in and be my substitute husband or substitute wife. And so they zoom in on this chosen child, and they take that child over emotionally. And that child hears all their adult problems and feels like they have to take on this adult role, and they're not allowed to develop their own identity properly. So the parent is dominating that child's life for their own benefit, for the parent's benefit. Not to do with the child. The child can't be authentic and be who they really are. They just have to please the parent. And the parent that's doing that at the time loves it, because you know what? I don't have to deal with my nasty wife. I don't have to deal with my horrible husband. I am now just going to find my husband or wife in this child. Not a good way to go, and it really hurts the child. And so that is something all parents have to look at. If you're in a bad marriage, you have to work on the marriage with your spouse. Make that better, then you're not going to be tempted to take over one of your children. Another reason is a parent can be a narcissist. Narcissists are great at being perpetrators of emotional incest because they get to do what they want to do. They get to have their own mirror. When you think of a narcissist and they want to mirror back how great they are, how wonderful they are, and of course they're doing that because they feel so empty inside. There's a lack of self-esteem, a lack of self-worth. So things have to be propped up on the outside. That's what being a narcissist is all about. Well, when you take over a child, that child has to mirror back to the parent all that. How wonderful the parent is. The narcissistic parent has all this mirrored back to them, and they think they're wonderful, and in their mind they're doing a good thing because look at all this lavish attention I'm putting on my child. So narcissists, if you have any inclination, any narcissistic tendencies, if you've been diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder, or if you're married to a narcissist and you're watching this video, be very aware of this dynamic playing out with the child, because narcissists are the first ones to jump in and want to take something over that can mirror back to them how good they think they are. Another reason for a parent committing emotional incest with one of their children is they want to live vicariously through the child because of their own broken dreams and hopes. So let's say in this case a mom had an idea that she was going to be a beauty queen or a starlet or go on to run some company, whatever the heck her fantasies were about her future, but none of them came true, and she's not happy with herself, and she's not getting the attention she wants from her significant other, and she realizes that she has this child she can mold like clay, because when a kid is 2, 3, 4, 5 years old, they're going to idolize their mommy, right? You don't know any better. That's what you're learning. That's how you're being conditioned at a very early age when you haven't developed your own identity yet. So the mom has them. The mom has them by the ball, so to speak, literally and figuratively sometimes. So the mother now, or it could be the father, I'm just using the mother as an example, is now determined to have this child live out their dream. That child is now going to be an extension of that parent. Another reason parents do this is because they feel really trapped in their life and they're lonely. So being trapped, they don't realize there's other options, other ways to go. They can go get some therapy, they can work on themselves, or they can end the marriage if they're that unhappy. But they're not either willing to look at these options, or they don't know the options exist, and they think in their minds they just have to suffer with this their whole lifetime. Which, of course, if you're feeling that way, you're looking for any kind of escape, which is then going in, of course, and plucking one of your children to be your little puppet, because in your mind you're thinking, that's how I'm going to solve my problems. Well, when you're feeling trapped and you're unhappy and you're not willing to work issues out with your spouse or significant other, then chances are you will choose a child to answer your adult needs. And of course, they have an easy target. The easy target is their little child, who again could be as young as 1 or 2 or 3, where this all gets started and continues all the way, hopefully, until the child realizes, like, let me get out of Dodge. I need to get the heck out of this house because this is a toxic environment for me. Now, that could be when a kid hits their teen years, that could be in their 20s. Some children carry this burden all the way through their 40s and 50s if you don't deal with it. And they're still afraid to piss off mommy or daddy, or to fully separate and build their own identity. So this can go on a lifetime. That's why it's so important to talk about this. So a child is an easy target. You can go in and form a child like a piece of clay. What's the kid gonna do? Before the kid even knows what's going on, they're treated like a prince or the princess, so of course they love that attention. And now, as I've mentioned in another video, it causes all kinds of problems with the siblings, because the siblings don't know what to do with their anger and rage and confusion about seeing their own brother or sister get all this attention lavished on them, and they wonder, well, what's wrong with me? Why am I not getting that? So now you have trouble with sibling issues in the household. And for more information, just click up right now and you'll see a link I have to another video I did specifically about this. So that child grows up realizing they were an easy target, but sometimes it takes a lot of work to realize that. A person has to commit to sometimes many years of therapy and working on themselves to fully separate, build their own identity, deal with the feelings they have about the offending parent who did this, which oftentimes is going to involve rage and anger and sadness and confusion, deal with all those complicated feelings, but it can be done. And I'm an example of that. I've worked very hard in my life to work through the issues of having a parent who perpetrated emotional incest on me. They do it out of their own weakness, they do it out of their own fear, they do it out of their own confusion. However, it's still done. So the child who's affected is not to worry or try to figure out their parents too much. In fact, I can't really delve too much into why my mom did it to me. All I know is I have to deal with my life and how it affected me and how I can improve myself. So there's a lot of hope and optimism for children who are raised this way, but you have to work hard at it, and then you'll find your self-esteem and self-worth and begin to love yourself in an authentic way, not in an inauthentic way, which is how you had to behave for your offending parent. So it takes a while to learn all that, but it can be done. Please leave me some comments below if you're a victim of emotional incest, or if you'd like to add anything. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel if you like these kind of mental health videos. And until next week, this is Brad Shore signing off from Ask a Shrink.